The world of customer success and customer education are evolving rapidly. Now, if you're seasoned, you've seen it all. Yet, technology keeps churning, and yes, I used that word. Perhaps you're new, and you're a sponge, absorbing all the new technologies, drinking from the fire hose. And while you might understand that new technology, understanding the historical craft that we do may be quite a learning curve. But it's never too late or too early to expand on your knowledge. Grab your favorite beverage, kick back in your chair, and let's shed some light on the skills that you need to thrive in today's customer success world. Oh, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on the discussions we have here. Without further ado, let's learn. I'm Dave Derington, your host of Learn Lightning, and this is your go-to destination for all things customer education. So let's dive in. Without customers, your business will not thrive. I want you to hold this phrase in your mind. If your customer isn't learning, they're churning. Now, we all know that it's really essential to provide a great customer experience. But what that looks like varies often dramatically from business to business. A really key way to help build relationships with your customers is via education. First, how are you onboarding your customers? Onboarding is a massive component of any software business, but we often have our customers quite literally drinking from an information fire hose. It is overwhelming. Sometimes we think about onboarding as a one and done. The customer's been trained, they're onboarded, but it shouldn't be. And it also shouldn't be a very manual, slow, human-driven process. So what I want you to do now is ask yourself, how does your product fit into your customer's day? Sure, a 1-hour training may be okay, it might be fun, but overall, it's really better to allow a customer to self-enable, learning as they go, as they have time throughout their workday. So for question 2, hey, what comes after onboarding? After that person starts to learn what I call the art of the possible, it's what all we could do, there's often silence, there's often nothing. And this is where it's really important for our customers to begin adopting. Education can support customer success by learning from the subscription model. In short, it just means that we have to provide the customer with relevant information that helps them do their jobs more effectively. That education has to be informed by their own learning journey, the things they need to learn, and we need to be there and be ready to meet them where they are. Now, that might mean we also have some work to do on the product itself. Maybe we're doing a YouTube video, or maybe we have a learning module in WorkRamp instance. Our role as educators and enablement leaders and practitioners is to be there when our customers are ready for it. So point 3, what other learning opportunities are we not doing that could help? Why are your customers not sticking with you? If you're trying to answer that question, some customers just ghost, they go dark. Why? Well, let's talk about retention. Retention is subtly different from adoption in the world of customer success, but the concepts are really complementary. Adoption, what is it? Well, it's that thrust to really help people get to know the product and use it fully. Retention goes over time. It's about people using the product as they work through time for years. So you have your core learning. That's the onboarding often. And then you need to grow a library, a cloud of different things that you can do. Sometimes you might call these learning interventions, things that customers can do over time, adding to their ability to use the platform. Retention involves that continuous improvement of our own platform too, but it also invokes the need to go beyond, to go deeper. I'd also say we bring into the picture community. This is where we engage a feedback loop with users and customers, maybe even partners, and probably even employees who use our products every single day. Over time, adding in content from passionate users, yes, customers, increases your credibility and engagement from your customer base too. Now that we have the idea of why you're losing customers and what questions you should ask to prevent that, let's move on to our next skill set, what to do before customer onboarding. Your customer journey begins way before onboarding ever begins. This is something that's really important to understand and quite often neglected. So there are a couple of questions that I like to ask. First, what do your customers really need to know about the product before they even use it? What the customers really need to know, and not just the kitchen sink and everything, right? Minimal information that will really help people grok what your platform is going to do. This means that there are things you can do to build excitement and interest before training ever arrives. What do your customers need to know about their own role? Do you need to educate your customers about the job that they're actually doing, their role, their function? And are there related concepts that are pivotal in making sure that customers can get value out of your platform? Sometimes, and these days more commonly, we're fundamentally changing the way they do work, like generative AI, or how do you use it? Well, you need to know something about AI before you start doing it. Any role has these fundamental things that are not product-based that help you learn to grow. So now that you know what to do before onboarding, let's learn how to stop customers leaving during product adoption. During product adoption, businesses may encounter several points where they could potentially lose customers. And we've all been there, right? That's why education is so essential. So here are 3 things that may go wrong and what you can do about them. First off, let's talk about product fit. If the product doesn't meet the expectation or the needs of your customer, they might abandon it during or after product adoption. This could happen if the product, 1, doesn't perform as promised, 2, lacks certain features that they were expecting, or 3, doesn't really integrate well with existing systems or workflows that they may be using. Next up, let's talk about usability issues. Now, if the product is kind of difficult to use, they might just walk away. Providing training material that is quick and easy to digest is key to overcoming that. Difficulty and usability may not always be interface related. Sometimes your product is totally different way of doing work. There's often a blank canvas syndrome, and that's where you just need to help somebody overcome a blank sheet of paper just to get started. Our role is to help our customers understand how things work together and how to get successful outcomes. That's storytelling and that's workflow. Now, number 3 is you may have a lack of training or documentation. Insufficient training materials or documentation can hinder a customer's ability to effectively use the product during production adoption. Customers might just become frustrated and just completely abandon the product and check out. It's important to assess and truly understand what your customers are needing. Sometimes you just have to ask them. I often do what I call an empathy audit, which is really just time spent asking questions and learning from your customers. For example, I will often send out a survey to a certain set of customers and ask questions like, do you know where to find documentation or training material? Or what kinds of training is most successful for you and your team? Again, ask, don't assume. You could, again, throw the kitchen sink at your customer with all kinds of documentation, all kinds of training, when a short onboarding course on demand could solve most of your learning problems. Okay, we've now discussed where you lose customers, onboarding, and why the lack of product adoption could be a problem. Now the most burning question, what are some common mistakes that are being made? We've already talked about what to do in many stages of the customer journey, but one thing we've yet to discuss is the customer relationship. Now, as customer education professionals, you may think, hey, that's not my job. But contrary to your belief, relationships are essential. And who better to talk about customer relationships and discuss this with me than my friend, Amy Elenius, Manager of Customer Education. Hi, Amy. Say hello to the audience.
Hello, everyone. Dave, what a glowing introduction.
Well, you're deserving of such, and we're going to have a good talk here today. So I'm going to ask you a few questions. When you're ready to go, let's rock and roll.
Perfect. Fire away. I'm ready.
What we'll start with is, what 3 common mistakes do you see people make when it comes to customer relationships? And before we get into that, I wanted to just go back a little bit and talk about you. I know from our discussions you've been both customer education manager, but also you have roots in customer success, right? Can you say that before you answer your questions a little bit?
Absolutely. So I had a strong background as a CSM in SaaS startups, and then moved into customer education in the last couple of years. But my background is a CSM, so I'm right there with you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, now it's time to answer. So again, 3 common mistakes that you see people make when it comes to our customer relationships.
I would say the first one would be scalability. Especially someone with a CSM background, my approach is to tailor my content to the merchant and make it really specific for them. But especially in something like education, it's really important that we make content that can be shared with everyone and that is relevant to everyone. Sometimes we need to meet our customers where they're at instead of where we wish they would be. So things like delivering content at the right time in their journey, making sure that we consider what their experience is before and after we share something with them. The third one I would say is being flexible and being able to understand that everyone's learning style is different and cater to those learning styles. Maybe they use a BPO and their training needs to be delivered in multiple languages, async in different time zones. So that's something to consider. If they're a company that is really old school and perhaps they need things to be printed out and stuck into a manual and bound together and handed to a new employee, we want to be able to be flexible enough with the content that we deliver that they can be used in all of those different scenarios. Because if we're giving something to someone that's useful but cannot be digested, it's useless. You can give someone the most wonderful meal they've ever eaten, but unless you give them the utensils they need to consume it, it just looks pretty.
The next question I have related to this, and you've already started to articulate this, but what do you suggest people do to stop making these kinds of fundamental mistakes?
I think the most important thing is to utilize the first experience. We're never going to be able to get that again. Most education people are coming in as from a different arm of the business or perhaps from a CSM background like a lot of us have. And we will never be able to experience the product for the first time ever again. That moment has gone. But we can utilize two different channels to do that. One is other products. So you can experience a new platform for the first time. Go through someone else's onboarding journey. See what their in-app experience is like. How is someone else delivering education content? So be a new user elsewhere. And then the second one is new hires. Slightly unconventional, but new hires are an amazing opportunity. And please don't lose this because like a first impression, you only get one. When a new hire comes into the business, have them go through your product journey and go through education content, not as an educator, but as a new user. Have them write down all their feedback, whether it's in a Loom or notes in a doc or voice recordings. I don't care how it gets to me. But I want to know from someone who is both product focused, but not product experienced, what their experience of the journey is like, because that's a golden opportunity. So training elsewhere and new hires.
That's exceptional. I particularly like that you'll never get the first chance again. But you're right in capturing the new hires. One of the things we do often is disconnect our internal onboarding experience with our customer onboarding experience, where it's the perfect place to do so. We're in a world that's very different. And what I'd like to ask is, what are the skills that you really need to have to thrive in customer success and customer education here in 2024?
I think empathy is the first one. When it comes down to it, I think that's about being able to understand the merchant's perspective. And where we exist in the business, we don't exist to drive a sales funnel, and we're not here to get marketing content out. We're here to advocate for the customer. And how can we do that unless we fully understand what their challenges are and what their goals are? So empathy would be my top one.
How would you show that your empathy with a customer is translating to meeting their own goals? As in, how are you connecting with them to get their outcomes, and how does that reflect back to our business?
But when we're doing something like setting up an academy or launching a new initiative, we have metrics that we need to hit. And most often, those are not the metrics that the merchant cares about. New users engaged, percentage of accounts engaged, product adoption increased, all those things, the merchant doesn't care about them. That's not their goal. So we need to be able to empathize with them on what their goals are and also understand what their challenges are as a business. If their business is internal L&D and they can't get their team to engage because content is dry and boring, then we need to be thinking, okay, how am I going to get my user metric up? One of their challenges to get users in is content is not dynamic and not engaging. So then I need to make a business case internally to put more time into making content more dynamic and engaging. Because if we go to leadership and say, hey, I need to update everything because all of our screenshots are really awful, it's like, well, that's a design choice. It doesn't really change anything, does it? It's like, no, I want to change these things because the merchant needs them. So again, we need to empathize with our merchants to be able to properly advocate for them within the business that we're in.
All right, Amy, this has been wonderful. I think if anything, and everybody would agree that actually understanding what your customer wants and and the frustrations they get and what they need to get there, that's the most important part of our journey. So thank you so much for joining us on our show here. We really appreciate you and all the expertise you're putting out to the world. So cheers. Thanks again.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. I'll see you soon.
Well, all great things come to an end. And today our Learn Lightning is at that point. Aww. We have covered a lot, and I truly hope you found value in each lesson, from how to kickstart your customer education program, building a community, to navigating AI, and the skills that you need to have in today's world. Our journey together has been focused on equipping you with the tools and insights and strategies that you need to thrive. In other words, this has been a lightning strike for your success. And don't forget, hit the like and subscribe buttons to never miss new industry tips and trends. So thanks again. I'm Dave Derington, and I'll see you again soon.